life is about alignment, right? And so if something is not aligned with the woman that you want to be, the woman you know you are in your heart, at some point that's going to start to break apart. That's going to start to unravel to align you with what is there for you. And so just trusting if something is starting to break apart or if something isn't feeling like it's right for you, to know that that is for you. That's not happening to you. That is for you because there is something better.
Welcome back to another episode on Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. Welcome my guest, Emily Pereira, who traded her perfect lifestyle in LA for one in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica. Through her exotic journey, she found the true light within herself and the true meaning of love. It took Emily periods of despair, utter confusion, and soul searching to now reach over 5 million people worldwide to help them reinvent their own love lives. Emily has become a symbol of hope, love, and discovery for women all around the world. She is an international retreat leader, yoga teacher, and women's coach specializing in helping women call in intimate, heart-thumping, passionate, I got your back no matter what love. Her raw vulnerability, storytelling laced with mind-blowing ahas about women's empowerment have reached over 5 million people worldwide. She has written for some of the biggest media outlets for our generation, and her first book, a memoir, The Quest, From the Hollywood Hills to the Amazon Jungle, One's Women's Search for Enough. All right, I want to welcome on the beautiful Emily Pereira on Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. Emily, thank you so much for being on the show. It is such an honor. I know you're calling from Costa Rica, a small little town that sometimes the internet doesn't work. So it's great that this actually panned out. The Wi-Fi is working and it's a blessing to have you on. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, channeling and praying to the Wi-Fi gods today that everything just goes really smoothly.
Yes, it will, for sure. Well, after learning much about you, I realized that there is just so much I relate to. And I think so many people that are tuning in today will really relate to the story that you will share and your journey of how you learned certain lessons that have taught you the wisdom you teach today to so many women worldwide. So yeah, it's very relatable. So yes, we'll go into your journey. So of course, I would like to start off with sharing some of your life's journey before you transitioned into this new life as you're living now. And as you call this journey, your quest.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, how I define the quest is that it's this really epic inner journey to find the jewel inside, which is the essential self, the spiritual self, the self that knows who you are, why you're here, and the exact steps to take to have the epic life that you're meant to have. And once upon a time, I couldn't have told you any of those things, right? So I really had no idea who I was, and I thought I did know who I was, but I really was just absorbing all of the messages from parents, teachers, friends, society over the years, and thought that, okay, this is who I am and this is what I'm supposed to do. And this is what's going to bring me happiness. And, about a little over 15 years ago was when my whole life as I knew it just like crashed down. And at that point, I had been working really hard to do all of the things that I was told and that I thought would make me happy. And that landed me a life that looked really good on paper. And I say paper because back then, this is before Instagram was a thing. It was like, I had this hotshot career as a sales rep for a top Fortune 100 company. I was like cashing those commission checks, winning those awards. I lived in a home on the beach with my man, who was one of the original MySpace founders. And so we had this really like kind of high flying life, closet full of designer clothes, all the stuff that Sex and the City told me would bring me happiness. So why was I escaping my so-called perfect life every weekend by partying until the sun came up? Not exactly the sign of somebody that really wants to be present for their life, right? So right around the time I thought I was going to be getting the ring, I found out that the man cheated on me, and I went into a really dark place because at that time I was deriving so much of my identity and my value from that relationship that when I lost it, it was like, oh my gosh, I've lost everything. And who am I? And unbeknownst to me at that time, and when we do go through those really hard, challenging times, there's this invisible portal that's opening, and it's this portal to the quest. And the quest is really, like I just said, just this beautiful journey that you take to find the person that really is the most important person in your life, which is yourself.
Yes. And like I said, I think a lot of people tuning in probably have experienced this one time or other. Doesn't mean that your a boyfriend or significant other cheated on you, but just wrapping your identity into external things, meaning a job, a relationship, or whatnot. And I very much relate to this, especially when I was younger, which was 13 to 23. I was in a 10-year relationship with somebody that was 3 years older. So I definitely tied my identity to that relationship, and somebody that was older, it was kind of like he was helping me form my identity. And so I just remember being in that journey of just being, it just not knowing who I was truly. And until we have these moments that are kind of like a check light or a check engine light that turns on and just like, hey, pay attention to this. Like, this is a signal that something's off alignment. And so I'm curious, when this happened, what kind of unfolded from there? Like your quest, can you start, like, what happened when you learned that your partner cheated on you? I mean, and your whole world kind of crumbled. What did you initially do to begin the quest? Because it's not easy to get, to move on from that.
That's such an important question. And I love that you touched on that. It doesn't need to necessarily be a breakup, but it can be, you feel like you have some sort of perceived failure, or you've some sort of really like debilitating illness or financial ruin or whatever it is. And we think that we've made horrible mistakes and ruined our life. But really, that's life's way of being like, no, this is not aligned with the truest you, that with the truth that's in your soul. And so Spirit's going to help you. Spirit's going to help break that all apart. And so you can align with the truth that is you. So for me personally, I had a connection with this spiritual teacher that I had met 6 years earlier. It was just this brief one-time meeting with this teacher. And all I could think about when I was in like my darkest days, lost the relationship, all the friends abandoned me, had to move out of my beachfront house into this like, much sort of small, dingy apartment. And, at that time I was just full of blame for him, full of blame for the ex-friends, but it paled in comparison to the blame I had for myself. I was so hard on myself. And in that moment, I thought the only person I want to talk to is this spiritual teacher that I had met 6 years earlier. So I called him up, said, remember me? And that was the beginning of a very beautiful apprenticeship of really intensive and extensive spiritual healing and spiritual study with this teacher as my mentor for 11 years. And really through the wisdom and guidance that was passed on to me, I was able to lift myself up through, all sorts of different mindset shifts and different practices. We can get into some of the specifics in a minute. But I really started the biggest one is really that I started to take radical personal responsibility for my life. Because up until that point, I was like, oh, poor me, he cheated on me, the ex-friends left me, and I didn't really understand this idea that, oh, wait, I'm the creatrix of my own life. Mm-hmm. I'm creating everything and everyone to help me evolve and to help me grow, to help me heal. That was pretty radical information for me at the time, because this is all before, we're living in a really exciting time now. There's so much information available. There's beautiful podcasts like the one that you have, all the inspirational messages on Instagram. There was none of this in 2006. So I was like, poking around in the dark, like, what do I do? And my whole friend group, that I was pretty distanced from, they thought I was absolutely nuts. But I found this person that spoke my language. And I really think that if you're in a place where you feel stuck or disconnected or lost, finding a mentor that really can shine the light for you is priceless. It is so priceless. And so as I learned about this concept of taking radical personal responsibility, and that in every situation there's a gift, that started to change my life pretty radically, because no longer was I vibrating in this place of, oh, poor me, victim nature, bad things happen to me. I started to vibrate in a more powered frequency. And when we get a gift, how do you feel?
Of course, empowered, uplifted, and you feel like then you're able to see different resources that you've never seen before. Like your kind of vision becomes clearer.
Absolutely. And you feel grateful, right? Because you got a gift, and that vibration of gratitude is like the foundational building block for manifestation. So when we're vibrating that place of abundance, we attract more abundance. So in a relatively short period of time, I changed my life pretty significantly with just that, really, with just taking radical personal responsibility. And within a couple of years, I'd created a new group of friends. A new beautiful man came into my life, a new beautiful home. I had a dog. I was doing really well in my career still. And I found myself waking up in the middle of the night, like clutching my heart with anxiety. And I was like, oh no, like what? Like I have all the stuff of life again, right? Like, what is this? And that was a really powerful moment for me, because I really realized it really is not about the external stuff. Because I had it before and I lost it. And I thought, well, okay, I put everything on the man. Oh, he's not doing enough for us. That's why I wasn't fully happy. Now here I was with this very devoted man, and I still was feeling, oh, there's something big missing. And it was very unnerving, because I'd been doing so many things over so many years, running around the planet, trips here, all sorts of things. And it just like, it wasn't enough. And that's really, I wrote a book about this journey. It's a big journey, 412 pages. I wrote about it, but the tagline is "From the Hollywood Hills to the Amazon jungle, one woman's search for enough." Because here I was in these situations that we've sort of been programmed to believe are it, right? It's like the carrot on the string. And I got those things and I was like, oh shit, this isn't it. Now what? And when I communicated this to my teacher, he was like, I see you need to write your story. He's like, even if you never show it to anyone, it's going to heal your heart. And I still remember that day. It was like someone did a tap dance on my heart. And it just blurted out like, okay, I think you're right. I am a writer. And at that point, I had literally written nothing besides emails and, the occasional thank you letter in like 11 years. And I was like, I don't even know how to begin. And he's like, thinking he might say, like, take a course at UCLA or, some sort of online thing. And he's like, no, just set an intention before you go to bed for the next month that you're recovering your innate creativity. And then you just be the beginner. Okay. As the beginner, you're not supposed to know how to do anything anyways, so you can never fail. And I was just like, okay, sound a little hokey, but I got nothing to lose, so I'm going to do it. And I was amazed that by simply suspending judgment, the words flowed freely. And I remember having a moment that first week where I literally like had a little bit of a breakdown where I was like, I'm going to be okay. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be okay. Because in these moments, when we really connect to like who we are and why we're here, that happens through the creative. I had no idea that the creative and the spiritual were so closely linked together, and that one pushes the other one forward. And accessing the creative was so incredibly powerful because it created this cascade of spiritual changes in my life. So many changes, but one of the most powerful that I noticed in the beginning was just less from my thoughts about like what other people were doing and what I need to do more of and how I'm not enough. And they were more like, oh, that'd be a cool way to connect those two chapters. And then it was like really interesting because it was sort of this domino effect that as I continued to write, then like this explosion of creative passion went off in my life. And I did not think I was a creative person. I was like, nope, not me. That's not who I am. And then I started to play guitar and sing and write songs and paint paintings and dance burlesque and do improv and all sorts of things. And I was like, no wonder I was a hot mess before. All of this was inside me and I couldn't access it. So yeah, many changes were to come, with the spiritual connected to the creative. And another one of the really powerful ones was in those moments when you feel connected to who you are and why you're here, like all of the stuff that happens to you leading up into that point that maybe you're like, holding on to some resentments about, it all sort of alchemizes to gratitude, because you realize that you had to take all of those steps to get to that moment where you're inspired. And in that inspired moment, there's no place you'd rather be.
It's so amazing. There's so much wisdom you just shared in that. And it sounds like I love when people talk about taking the radical responsibility for your life and where you are now, because that brings you from a disempowering state to an empowering state. And just that mindset shift, then you're able to look as a creator of your life instead of a circumstance to your life. And so that's definitely, I think, one of the most pivotal points and foundational pieces to get to is taking that radical responsibility and then being able to like, okay, what do I want to create in my life? If I'm the creator, what do I need to do to get to where I want to go? And so I love this, but many people listening right now, I imagine, feel stuck, feel maybe where you were once at, very unfulfilled. They have these things, they have somebody that still has a secure job these days. Like, that's a blessing in the times we're at today, but there's still this void of unfulfillment. So if you were to guide somebody in the first initial steps, I know you had a mentor, a spiritual teacher, and you did share one thing was taking that radical responsibility. But if you were to lay out like 3 steps initially somebody should take from feeling just stuck and feeling overwhelmed by their circumstances, possibly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can so relate with that feeling. I felt that way for so long. So yes, I love this question. And I also stayed at my traditional job for 10 solid years after I wanted to leave. So you can absolutely do all of these things on the side. You can absolutely have that job, that stable income, and be able to nurture yourself and foster ways to be inspired on the side. And so the first thing I would say is get out of your comfort zone. Okay. The comfort zone is the biggest illusion going. It's like, oh no, that's outside my comfort zone. Well, how does it feel inside the comfort zone?
Yeah.
Pretty uncomfortable, right? It's just like stagnation is like not a feeling that humans like. We are life. We're like the tree outside. We want to keep growing. So get outside your comfort zone. Okay. I know that that might sound really hard and really scary. Like, how do I get outside my comfort zone? It seems really scary on that edge. You be the beginner, just like I just talked about, because as the beginner, you absolutely cannot fail. Think of children. They're being beginners in every single thing that they do. They're not worried that they don't know how to do it, and their creativity soars. There's actually an organization called creativeminds.org that reports that children of 5 are operating with 85% of their creativity. And by the time they get to 12, it goes down to 2%. So we are being on the quest to reclaim the essential self is to reclaim the creative self, and like doing something creative, right? So maybe there was something you remember as a little child that you liked doing, and maybe it was painting, even just putting some colors on a canvas, mixing colors together. I remember how powerful that was for me when I was reclaiming my creative self. I loved just like mixing colors together, and but there may be something that calls to you. Maybe it's singing, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's writing, and giving yourself that permission that you don't need to be the best. When I started playing guitar, I was like, I do not need to be Eric Clapton. Okay. I can like do C to D. Okay. C to D, to G. That's like, you can write a song with that. So allowing yourself to be in a process. Our culture does not celebrate the process. We think we're supposed to show up and slay and like get it right the first time. And if we don't, we think maybe I shouldn't do that at all. Okay. Right. I'm not gonna be like really good and be the best right away. But the process is actually where the growth happens, where the expansion happens, where the meaning and the fulfillment is. And in that place where you expand, the light comes in. And as you continue to walk through these little doors, like these little doors that seem scary, it's going to build your confidence. Okay, well, I didn't know how to do that and I tried it. And then look how that turned out. And okay, maybe I can try that. Maybe I can try that. I have a retreat here in Costa Rica called the Mermaid Sisterhood, and the entire retreat is set up for women that are feeling stuck, right? So you're held in a container, a safe container of love, where there are carefully curated embodiment practices and activities designed to expand you, designed to connect you with your essential self and your creative self. And so when you do it in a situation like that too, with other women that are all in the same boat with you, it also is a great place to start.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. And I think that is so important, that there are so many things that we could try to do creatively. And the really special thing about it is everybody will choose something different. I remember when I started rock climbing, and again, being new at it, not sure how to do anything. And then I learned the steps and I actually got really good at it. And I was pretty amazed. And that boosted my confidence. And then also salsa dancing, just all these things. When you try something new, that, like you said, that journey is the discovery of who you are, and you see what you're capable of and you see what you like. So it's very informative, you could say, to really what lights us up, which I think is so important. And I think I always agree that we must put ourselves outside our comfort zone, because in comfort, there is no growth. There's no aliveness. It's kind of like that, like you said, that stagnant energy. It's just like the mundane life, which doesn't sound fulfilling whatsoever. And I actually like, it drives me crazy being in a mundane life. So yeah, if nothing changes, nothing changes. That's the key important things. So going back to your, if you don't mind, back to your breakup, because I'm going to probably bounce around a little bit, but going back into your breakup, for anybody that has lost a relationship, and then your partner possibly cheated on you or whatnot, how did you ensure to not continue to place blame on yourself and be able to switch that into, what can I learn from this? What was your process of that to release those emotions of heaviness?
Yeah, truth be told, I carried those emotions for a few years, for sure. Like I just held myself. In the beginning, I felt like I was losing so much. And it took time before I cultivated and created that next phase, that next chapter in my own life. And it really took until those moments when I was totally inspired, where I was like, there's no place I'd rather be than right here in this inspired moment. And when that happened, I was able to say, that needed to happen. That breakup needed to happen. The way that it happened, everything was divinely guided to bring me here. And so to really heal the past, the fastest way to heal the past is to get focused on creating an amazing present.
Ooh, that's great. I love that. Oh,
If
so
you love
powerful.
if you love your present and you're here now, you're like, oh, I see now. And I did show up in a lot of crazy ways in that relationship. And I did contribute to the breakdown of that relationship because I wasn't in my power yet as a woman. And sometimes I believe that person was chosen for my awakening. That person was chosen by me as spirit before I came into this wild ride of this lifetime to help wake me up. And sometimes those partners, it's a hard partnership. It's a hard ending, because it is when sometimes things are so painful that you're like, I need to do something different. I can never go through something like this again. And it motivates you to actually make changes in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember all my past teachers, if you want to say, meaning past relationships, the things I learned, and really all it returned to is a reflection that I needed to love myself more, not necessarily put everything into a partnership. And really what I needed to do is just is stand for myself and the love I had for myself and really embody it. So greatest teachers in relationships, they really teach us so much.
And I
And
would
the,
add to, like,
yeah,
if you're going through a breakup, like writing is so incredibly important, because when we write our stories, when we become the author of our stories, you become the authority over that time period in your life where maybe you felt powerless. And you start to then be empowered by it rather than be the victim of it. So writing is like this master healer at our fingertips, available to all of us at any time. And it's not about writing to be like a good writer. Literally, when I started writing my book, I hadn't written anything in 11 years. It was really about writing to detox what was too heavy to hold inside of my heart. And now that's why writing is such a big part of my retreats, because I see how fast people quantum leap when they start actually writing.
That's so amazing. And that's why so many people share that they journal. It's like getting those thoughts outside on paper. So you're actually able to reflect and see it and then know how to process it. Because when it's stuck in our head, we could just go in this spiral of negativity. And then it's like, we're in the darkness and it's really hard to get out when we're stuck there. So yes, I think that's so amazing. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a book, like the idea of becoming an author. I know for myself, like I have many books, or I have a good 4 books in me, and I know they're all coming. It's just starting the process again, having that beginner's mindset, because a lot of people will tell themselves, I'm not an author. Like, who am I to write a book? And I love that, just by beginning and not judging it and just starting, and you'll be surprised how well you might write especially when you're writing from your heart. So that's beautiful. I love that.
And I would add to, like, the very best part about my book journey was the writing of the book. Like, everything that's come after has been like a cherry on the cake, but the writing was where the real transformation happened. And I would love to gift that to everybody, because it is so powerful. You can literally write yourself, you can write yourself a totally new story by letting go of the past, or you can write yourself into the next new chapter of your life if you already love your life.
That's amazing and so inspiring. So thank you for that. So going into the transitioning from where everything seemed great, but then realizing like, there was so much more, and then you uncovered all these things through your creativity aspects. What then transcended from there? I know you got married at a later age, if you would say, as they would call like late. So if you could kind of share that journey and how that unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that just in my experience, like, when you finally find your way out of the maze, when you like claw your way out of the dark cave to find, the light of liberation and personal power on the other side, there is this strong urge to reach out and lift up others who are hungry, who want to come up to the place where you are. And so I knew that I wanted to help other women. A big part of my journey that I realized is, as I came into enoughness within myself, and like belief in myself, my competition with women went down, and like the camaraderie went up. Like, it was just like so beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, the sisterhood, like, oh, I really like craved the sisterhood, and I had really deep compassion for women who were still stuck in these prisons of perfection that the patriarchy parents us to be in. And so I knew that my work was going to be with women, helping women, guiding women. And there's many different sort of moving parts to what I do. So I lead retreats for women who really want to awaken to their true essential self. And then I also help women who are on the journey to call in soulmate love, what I call heart and passionate. I got your back no matter what kind of love. And this is one of those things. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what size you are, what color you are. Love is about spirit recognizing spirit. And so in order for your spirit to be recognized, first you need to recognize spirit, right? And so, I always joke around. I'm like, if you told me at 28, I would have way more high quality men after me at 38, and I would have my babies naturally at 39 and 42, I would have thought you were like drunk or just batshit crazy. But that's exactly what happened. And it happened because of this beautiful quest. It happened because once you know yourself, and once you know what lights you up from the inside, it's just like humanly, physically, cosmically impossible for other people to not be drawn to that light.
It's so true. Okay. So you met your now husband at 38. And so for those women that might be younger than that or older than that, it really could be any woman you're speaking to that feels like they're maybe, they haven't found the one, and they feel like they're old now and they're all taken and all these stories that have been told. What would you say to those women today?
I would say that love is timeless and age is timeless, and that construct that like your expired goods is such a false belief that's been passed down by the patriarchy. And I literally, like, the man that I called in at 38, he's 3 years younger than I am. And he's like, of all the men I've dated, like the most sexy and the most high quality. And so it's really like, it's about focusing less to the man and about focusing to who you are and what gifts you have and what you're bringing. And that starts with being able to give to yourself first and learning how to gift yourself permission. Permission is, it's like this beautiful cascade that happens. Permission leads you to your passions, and passions are no accident. They're a compass that is directing you to your purpose. And like when you are living a life, you know, of passion and of purpose, like not only is that deeply enlivening and fulfilling, it allows you to have something called sovereignty. And sovereignty is like you enjoy your own company. And so what that allows you to do is hold the desire for a man and for a relationship, not from a place of lack, but from a place of, oh, I'm good, I'm full, my life is abundant, but I also do still have that desire, because desire is beautiful. In the Tantra tradition, desire is the beginning of everything. And so really focusing to creating an incredible life for you is really the secret to becoming a magnet for that incredible partner to come into your life. And then also, once you're in that partnership, being able to be a truly equal partner and not have all these like codependency things that can oftentimes happen.
And how would you say somebody could recognize if they have codependency with their relationships, if somebody is in a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, if they're putting the other person's needs before their own, if they're, you know, feeling like they, you know, like if a fight happens, if a conflict happens and they feel like, oh, they put all the blame on themselves, if they feel like, you know, this person is their snorkel in the great sea of life and without them, they cannot survive. Those are a couple that come to mind right away.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, neediness and lack, those are not, if you're vibrating from a place of neediness and lack, you're still a magnet. We're always magnetic, but it just, what it ends up doing is it attracts somebody where the relationship still feels like it's lacking.
Okay, so doing this inner quest and really getting to a place that we feel enough and that we feel, you know, fulfilled and lit up in life, what would you believe would be some questions a woman or a man listening should ask themselves to get really clear on answering those questions and getting to that place of enoughness?
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes these answers aren't so readily available. I remember people always asking me, like, well, what are you passionate about? I was like, freaking no. Like, you know, because what happens is when we have all this conditioning around us that we need to be the best and we need to show up and do it well, we're like shutting ourselves down to the permission of exploring, because it seems really scary to do those things and possibly be judged or rejected or kicked out of the tribe. So the first thing I'd recommend doing is getting into your body. So any sort of embodiment practices, breath work is a big one that I love. Dance, writing, all of these things are going to move you into the theta and beta brain states. And that's where your intuition then becomes accessible. And your intuition knows the way. She absolutely knows the way. And then having the, I don't say courage, but really the permission to follow the guidance that comes through. Because the permission is just simply saying, like, I'm allowed to do that. It's very soft. It's very feminine. It's just like, it's okay if I'm not the best. And one thing's going to lead to the next, that's going to lead to the next. And it's going to be this beautiful braid of things. And then one day you're going to look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that that book fell off the shelf about watercolors and I picked it up and I started watercoloring for the first time. And now, who knows where that might lead. But it's like, there's no accidents, there's no coincidences.
Right.
Like being attuned and aware to the signs outside of you and also within you. Like when he said that about the writing and I felt someone tap dancing on my heart, it was like, okay, this is a very clear sign. There's something here for me.
Oh, beautiful.
I
And
did not
then
think it's going to turn into a published book. I'm not. That's just, and
isn't that
actually
remarkable?
the thing I hear the most about people who read this book is, oh my gosh, how did you write that book? It is so honest. And the way that I wrote this book is that I told myself I was not publishing this book. And so I
Wow.
really, really wrote the truth. And it was a terrifying truth, like how honest it really is. But by the time it actually got published, it got published way after I wrote it. I had grown into the woman that could own that publicly.
Ooh, that's powerful. I love that you said that. And I think that just the whole practice, it sounds like you went through so many different practices and you were trying different things and seeing what was an alignment that worked for you. And so you writing, whatever, however many pages, I know there's 412, but I'm sure a lot has been edited from this. Writing all this, obviously you found your flow, like you knew it was therapeutic to you, and you didn't go with the intention like I'm going to publish this, which is so beautiful. And look what it came into. And obviously you speaking to so many and teaching people your way that you've learned all these lessons. So it's really beautiful. So I know you're also considered the relationship whisperer. So talking about relationships, and we went into, obviously you need to find your stable ground yourself, find what you love, what lights you up, and not be in this needy energy. So for talking to those in relationships that possibly feel like we were talking about earlier, they feel somewhat their identity in this relationship, they're comfortable, and they want to spark it up and kind of reignite that fire within the relationship. Let's say somebody in a long-term relationship, how would you guide them to keep that fire alive?
Yes. I mean, it might sound ironic, but the best way to get closer as a couple is actually to go into your own life and start mining that gold that is you. And so giving yourself that permission, as I've said before, to explore things that you have never done before. It can be creatively, it could be taking a trip, going on a retreat. Solo adventures are incredible for this. Anything that can expand you is so powerful, because what happens is then you get to bring those gifts, you get to get those gifts and bring them back into the relationship. So I always say that long-term relationship is like a potluck dinner, right? You need to bring something to the table for the couple, for the relationship to feast on. And if nobody keeps bringing anything new, it's like, okay, we ate all the plates that are on the table and now we're starving. And so it's like going out into your own life, planting seeds, letting those fruits grow, and then bringing the fruit back into that partnership so you guys can both feast on it. I mean, it's no secret that like sexual attraction, a lot of that comes from things being new and novel and mysterious. And so as you continue to evolve, especially creatively, you keep meeting new versions of yourself. You keep meeting new versions of yourself, and you get to bring those new versions back into the relationship. And then the partner also sees you and feels you as new. And it really sparks that chemistry.
Yes, I love that. So what would you say to possibly somebody that is in a relationship where they feel their partner won't, if you want to say, allow them to have that solo time, allow them or make them feel guilty for going off and trying this new hobby without them? What would you say to that that person in a relationship that they don't feel it's welcomed?
Well,
That's
I
a
would
hard
say
one.
probably a lot more under the hood than going on in that relationship. So just being in that place of, sweetness and compassion. First, I would say to anyone that's in that situation right now, like, I see you, sister. And I know that that's a challenging place to be, especially if there's children and family involved. And if you feel like you are unable to leave that situation. But life is about alignment, right? And so if something is not aligned with the woman that you want to be, the woman you know you are in your heart, at some point that's going to start to break apart. That's going to start to unravel to align you with what is there for you. And so just trusting if something is starting to break apart or if something isn't feeling like it's right for you, to know that that is for you. That's not happening to you. That is for you because there is something better.
Beautifully said. And I so appreciate that message. And so how would you say they should communicate with their partner to deepen that understanding, if you want to say?
Yeah. Whenever, there are challenging things that come up in a partnership, one of the best things to leave out of the conversation is the you, right? So it's like, you do this, you do that, when you do that, and instead lead with the I. I feel this way in this situation. Bring it back to the I feel language, which is very feminine. It connects you with your heart and brings you, out of the mind into the heart. And that will help your partner also connect more with you and your heart. And so using that I feel language is allowing you to take personal responsibility for your feelings. And when you take personal responsibility for your feelings, that allows the other person to be able to receive what you're saying and not go onto the defensive.
Absolutely. So key. Absolutely. And that's a great advice. I love that. And so talking about, because I'm wondering, in your retreats, do you focus mostly on create for women to really discover their uniqueness, their fulfillment, their passions, purpose, or do you also integrate relationships into that? Like how to cultivate a new relationship or whatnot?
Yeah.
Actually, that's not the right way to word it, cultivate a new relationship, but to
Fall
attract
in
a
love.
new, yes, yes, yeah, that's a better way
Well,
to put it.
falling in soulmate love starts with self-love. So the entire retreat is really this 5-day immersive experience that where all of these different modalities are set up for you to reconnect with yourself that you do love. And, there's 3 core modalities that we do every day. The first is Kundalini yoga. The second is gateless writing workshops. And the third is beginning surf lessons. And they're all like their own form of spiritual surgery. So the Kundalini yoga, it really works a lot with breath and with mantra and with kriya, and it's the first yoga. It's the yoga of awareness, and I have found it to be like almost like a magic carpet ride for your manifestations. Like when you combine Kundalini yoga with other things, it just seems like life just takes off like a rocket. So I love Kundalini yoga. And then we go into the writing workshops. And I touched on how powerful writing is in the sense that we're able to detox and let go of what's too heavy to hold. And also to become the authority over times in our lives when we felt powerless. But the way that it's done in this retreat, it's through this methodology called the gateless method. And gateless is really what comes from ancient Zen and neuroscience, and it soothes the inner critic. So your innate creative genius can come forth. And it's really this beautiful process because I bring everybody into the somatic body through meditation, and then there's a writing prompt, and everybody has an opportunity to write. And then we read out loud, and this is where like the magic happens. We read out loud and we comment on each other's work, but we only focus to what has power, strength, and energy. We're not doing this just to be nice people, even though it feels like this like epic love shower for you and your creativity. We're doing it because in the brain, we have something called the reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system is like a super good employee. Like whatever you tell it to do, it's just going to take it and run with it. So by focusing to what has power, strength, and energy, those things become more present in your work and in your life. And what doesn't get acknowledged starts to naturally fall away. So, if like energy attracts like energy, when what has power, strength, and energy starts to take center stage, we start to attract more of those things into our life. And then also it's this really beautiful process where you are being totally authentic and totally vulnerable in your writing. And then what's being mirrored back to you is celebrated and honored. So if you want to be calling in a partnership where you can be your authentic self and be totally vulnerable, and then that's celebrated and honored, you want to get into that vibrational frequency so you can be a magnet for that. So it's, although the retreat is not focused to calling in love, I hear all the time from people that, oh my gosh, I mean, one girl met
Yeah.
her partner on the air in the airport on the way home from one of my retreats, which was so beautiful.
Oh,
So it does definitely rev that magnetism. And then we do other things like sweat lodge and breath work and ecstatic dance and drumming ceremonies. And we do all sorts of different things throughout the retreat. And
so sweet.
it's just like this beautiful love container that's very different than the world that we're living in. So it's, yeah, it definitely gets you into that magnetic frequency for that. And then we do surfing, which is so incredible because it's just like so fun. And everybody's like, all the little girls come out to play and everyone's just like really feeling so high. But surfing is the ultimate spiritual practice. The Mother Ocean, she shows us, where are you holding yourself back? Where are you not giving yourself permission? How can I put you more into the flow state? And delivers you to that elusive present moment that we hear so much about. So all of those benefits from surfing actually transfer to the on land life as well.
Wow, I've never heard that. And that's so beautifully said. I love that. My gosh. No, it sounds phenomenal. And I think with everything you're saying, like you said, it really is all about being authentically you and shining in your light. And then that will magnetize in everything around you. And that will bring in new relationships, whether it be intimate relationships or friendships or whatnot. But everything starts and ends with you. So, must begin doing the work, going on this quest, to really find your inner light and what really ignites those things within you to try to find full fulfillment. That's really what it's about. So I love that you share this. And like I said, I haven't read your book, but I can't wait to read all the goodness, because I feel like your story is very relatable, but you're sharing the lessons through your gifts that you learned along the way. And I think that, we always learn from other people, and we could shorten the curve of the heartache, if you want to say, by learning from others' journey. So I think it's so beautiful. And the retreat, I think you have it coming up in June, right? So people could still join.
I do June 5th to June 10th here in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica. So if you are interested, reach out and I can share more information about it.
Perfect. So I'll definitely include that in the show notes, and of course your book. This has been so great. I just love how you share the journey and the quest, how it is just such a worthy, it's such a gift that we get to explore the depths of our soul by doing this work.
Yeah.
That's really what is going to bring that fulfillment. So it's just so beautiful. And I love how you explain it all. So it's great. So anyways, I always, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like too, there's sometimes some like trepidation when it comes to the inner work. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there. And I've really found like, it's like, if you want to scare away the vampires, just simply guide them into the light. Right. And I really feel like life pre-quest, post quest is like went from black and white to color. Like life gets so interesting, it gets so exciting. And that doesn't mean there's never challenging moments. Challenging moments mean you are going to the next place. Like it shows you how to embrace the challenges and to appreciate them and see that they're there for you, instead of like, oh no, I've screwed something up. And I think, what a more relaxing way to navigate life.
Yep. And that was when I opened up this book, I did pull up that chapter where you did write that, like the vampires being led to the light. I love that saying. That's so great. I've never heard that one. I love it. So where can people best find you?
I'm on Instagram at Emily_begins, in the spirit of being the beginner. And my website is emilypereira.com.
Okay, perfect. And that will be in the show notes as well. So I always close off by asking my guests the same question. If you were to leave a piece of wisdom that you have learned in your life's journey, which I'm sure you've shared possibly one of it already, but if you were to share one lesson that you feel everybody needs to hear right now, what would that be?
It would be, focus less on what you think you should do or what the world needs, and focus more to what makes you come alive. Right? Like, your passions, they are no accident. I mentioned this before. They are there. You were born with those, even if they're like really covered over by all the shoulds of life. And they are going to direct you straight to your purpose for being here. And when you are lit up by your passions and your purpose, I mean, there is no other more fulfilling and enlivening path than that. And like, that is when it is impossible for other people to not be drawn to your light.
Yes, it's so beautifully said and so perfect for Passion Love Pursuit podcast. Thank you so much, Emily. This has been such an honor, and you are such a light. And I'm so thankful to have connected and to learn more about you and what you're doing for everybody in the world. It's pretty magnetic. So thank you for everything today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you so much for being here. It's so fun.